What's up, folks? Welcome back to Tactical Tortoise. My name is Trevi, and today we're going to be talking about a super cool new terrain system that you can use to spruce up your games of Warhammer 40,000 or other miniatures games on the tabletop. This is a modular battlefield ruin terrain system created by Snot Goblin Gaming with the intention of making your terrain more easily modifiable and easier to store. Let's talk about it. This is a set of ruin terrain, modular battlefield ruins that you could use for all manner of game systems. They're mostly designed for Warhammer 40k because they've actually been built specifically to interface with a ton of competitive terrain setups. And for these ruins, modularity is the name of the game, because the coolest thing about these is that they're actually a snap-to-fit system. The whole design philosophy is essentially like Legos, but for miniature games, where every single one of the component pieces of this system is disassemblable. And we can see here how easily these pieces come apart. So if we want to disassemble our entire system, we can do that in basically just minutes. It means that these ruins are configurable to however you want to build them. If we want to be building larger structures, we can do that. But also, in terms of storage, I know for me personally, one competitive 40k terrain layout takes about 2 shelves of storage space. This obviously doesn't have that problem because the entirety of a table can be broken down into just about a shoebox worth of space. And in fact, all of this material, and there's actually a bunch more pieces that I was sent to review, fit into this little box right here. What is essentially like 2 US Open buildings worth of terrain. So you can extrapolate that out to, maybe 2 or 3 of those required to fill the entirety of a US Open setup. And that is not a ton of space when it comes to storage. But obviously, the configurability is a really big deal. Now, whenever it comes to a system like this that is designed to be modular and to be disassembled, I'm always a little bit worried about how well paint goes onto it. And so I did drop a coat of spray primer on one system just to see how easy it would be to take apart and put back together. And I will say that it is a little bit more snug with the paint on it. I think if you keep paint off of these little tines here when you are putting paint on your system, then it's going to go together and come apart much more easily. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make that big of a difference, and it just is a little bit more snug. Now that said, the assembly and disassembly process is also pretty easy. Most of it is held together by these pegs that you can see in the central pieces, and those will actually hook into these tiny hook pieces that are in each of these assembly times, and that's what basically locks the entire structure together. That makes the whole system incredibly sturdy and easy to take apart and put back together. We can even put large metal models on this if this guy will fit there without really seeing any deformation in the ruined terrain. And I know that is a real big problem, especially if you're running events at an LGS or a competitive event where breaking and damaging of terrain is a problem. But I think the fact that these are injection molded plastic, which is a really big deal, and have this sturdiness built into the design is going to make it very difficult for them to fall apart. So going through the system as a whole, these ruins are injection molded plastic and designed so that they can come apart and be put back together in a variety of configurations, and do so pretty quickly, especially if you kind of keep it together in sub-assemblies, where, for example, if we were to take one story off of this, we can dramatically reduce the volume that the ruin takes up, but still only basically need a one-step process to reassemble it once we get to the game table, which saves a ton of time. They're snap fit, so there's no glue required, but obviously if you want to assemble it permanently, you can put glue in here, although I don't think it's necessary whatsoever. Now, a couple things I like about the design as well. It's pretty utilitarian, obviously. It's not the most highly detailed thing ever, which goes obviously to save a ton of space and also make that assembly process really easy without a lot of fiddly bits. But I appreciate that it's not necessarily like a dark Gothic aesthetic, because that means that it's usable in a lot of different systems beyond just Warhammer 40,000. Obviously, the fact that this can be broken down into very small buildings and really tiny sub-assemblies if we really wanted it to, means that it works for even smaller games like Kill Team or Marvel Crisis Protocol. The fact that it's also pretty generic works for a ton of games as well, especially if you're trying to build out big cityscapes for historical games like Bolt Action. A setup like this is going to look pretty good once it's all painted up. It has a lot of flat surfaces, but there's just enough texture on them to take dry brushing or airbrushing pretty well. But you can also flock them, or I bet this would even look good with a texture paint over the top to theme it to whatever the rest of your terrain collection looks like. So now we've talked about exactly what the system is, but before we sign off the video, we're going to put some time into talking about the Kickstarter campaign for this terrain setup and how exactly you get your hands on it. Now, for those who don't know, Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform where a creator will be trying to bring something to life, typically a project or a product or a new business, and set a goal for funding to be raised. You're able to contribute to that goal, typically in exchange for product. It works kind of like a pre-order system, but not exactly. In this case, it is basically like a pre-order because this modular terrain set is going to be available on Kickstarter starting today. Now go ahead and check it out at snotgoblingaming.com. You can find all of the links to get to the Kickstarter as well as more informational material about this terrain system there now. Tactical Tortoise viewers are also going to get a little bit of a bonus because if you put in the code TTFREE on snotgoblingaming.com as you sign up for their Kickstarter newsletter to get information about the Kickstarter as it's ongoing, you will automatically receive a free Goblin Hut ruin set. You will automatically receive a Goblin Hut ruin set absolutely free of charge. That's available to the first 50 viewers that insert that coupon code TTFREE at the location on the website shown. Now going back to talking about Kickstarter itself, there is a goal to be raised for Kickstarter in order for the project to continue. But no funds will actually change hands if that goal is not raised. So unlike some other crowdfunding platforms, if the campaign doesn't get to where it wants to, there's no harm to you. So there's really no downside to signing up. Either you get your product or no big deal. In this case, though, I think this project is going to fund. There are a bunch of reasons for that. Obviously, trust is a big deal when it comes to these crowdfunding campaigns. And the folks over at Snot Goblin Gaming have put a lot of time and effort into making this the most trustworthy campaign possible. I showed off the ruins themselves earlier in the video, and I'm happy to say that this is actually just a production prototype. So, production is actually ready to go for these terrain pieces. I can talk all I want about the form and functionality of the product, but if it's some sort of vaporware that doesn't show up at your house, that doesn't really matter. But in this case, we are already making some injection molded plastic ruins and they're ready to ship. In fact, they're so ready to ship that the first 40 backers on the Kickstarter are going to get their product immediately after the Kickstarter funds. Those sets are already created and ready to go, packed up. The Kickstarter itself has a ton of information on it, so I highly recommend you go and check that out. You can see the entire design process of these modular ruins, as well as checking out the benefits of the system. I think overall, these pledge levels are going to be a really good deal, especially if you're looking for an easy and simple solution to build out a table full of 3D terrain. The fact that there are backer levels that are meant to be compatible with a variety of different competitive layouts as well means that if you're looking to get more into competitive 40k, this is a perfect set to get if you're looking to practice in the future. I'm really impressed with this product so far, and I'm excited to see where Snot Goblin Gaming goes with this system because I think there's also a lot of room to expand. If you have the base system already, I think there's a lot of directions that could be gone in to accessorize out the system or build out future expansions, and I think that's super exciting. I would love to see something like this become like a tournament standard for 40k terrain because it's so easy and so simple to set up, and I really don't have any complaints with the system. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you go check out Snot Goblin Gaming's Kickstarter, and I want to thank them for supporting this video. Big thanks to everyone else who supports the video as well over on Patreon at patreon.com/tacticaltortoise. YouTube channel members, Twitch subscribers, all those people are phenomenal, and I love you. I'm going to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.